who the Pagans are, how they started, where they are at this point. So basically, the Pagans are what is considered an outlaw 1% biker club, and they are in the Big Five. So the Big Five are the Hells Angels, the Mongols, the Banditos, the Outlaws, and now the Pagans. And they control territories all over the United States, right? Started in 1957. And then it kind of blew up in the 70s. Today they're in California, Nevada, Delaware, Florida, Kentucky, Michigan, Illinois, Oregon, Tennessee, Virginia, Rhode Island. I mean, I could go down a little bit. Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, India. And much of this is actually due to the guy who is the national president today, Conan Keith Richter, the Barbarian. Imagine having that nickname.
Yeah, the one thing I found with this book was, I have to say these guys have the coolest nicknames. I mean, the mafia always has cool nicknames. These guys have cool nicknames.
No, the mafia's nicknames are horrible compared to these. It's always, it's always like, Dominic the Nose, or
right.
These nicknames are fantastic.
Vinny the Chin.
Yeah, Vinny the Chin, right? Exactly. So the national president today is Conan the Barbarian. And he did 16 years in prison for conspiracy to commit murder and racketeering. So the story goes that they were shaking down all these strip clubs, and there was this one guy who decided he wasn't going to be shaken down. And the story is incredible. If anybody go online, look up the story. The guy's name is Sean McCarthy, and he decided he wasn't going to be shaken down by the Pagans. And he by himself fought 7 Pagans. They stabbed him 5 times, but he kicked the shit out of all 7.
Wow. Jesus.
Yeah. And then what had happened was
that in Jersey?
I believe it was in Jersey. It's called the Carousel. That was the name of the club. And and then what happened was Conan the Barbarian hears this, puts a hit out on this guy, Sean McCarthy. He never gets to do it because the cops get to him beforehand, and they are able to arrest him for conspiracy for murder and racketeering. Then he gets out. He's appointed as the national president, and his whole job is he wants to expand, they call it the blue wave, throughout the country, all these clubs. Then he gets arrested again on a gun charge. The police pull him over and found a gun in his car. A lot of people believe that he was set up because even though he was expanding the club, he was making a lot of enemies within the club. Like he was patching over members that didn't put their time in order to expand the club, and so on and so forth. So he's still in prison on this gun charge, and he's doing 33 months. He should be getting out pretty soon, actually, because he started a sentence in 2021. But he looked like he was, public enemy number 1. Now, before we get into, I want to get into Ken a little bit, but before that, explain what the mother chapter is, because I know we've been saying it, but we didn't explain exactly what.
Yeah, sure. So the mother club is like, it's like the board for the mafia. It's the chair. It's the mother club. It's the top members from all the different regions, and they kind of run the whole operation. So
it's not an actual club.
It's a group, and and they meet regularly. Yeah,
but they don't meet.
But they can be members of other chapters,
and they don't meet in the same spot, right? It varies.
They travel around.
Right. Okay.
There's not a mother clubhouse, because that would be easy for the Hells Angels to target. It's what's decentralized is the word.
Yeah. Okay. So it's similar to the commission when you look at the mafia. Okay. Exactly. Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
And it's a lot of bosses. It's the captain from each district, and they're basically appointed.
Okay.
And then they have their own security team, and Ken became a part of that at one point.
There was a Pagans, and there was I think 700 of them, and they were looking to kill a president of another club. And he knew he couldn't let that happen, but he didn't know how he was going to distract them. So he actually used their rules against them and said, look, we can't kill this guy if he's a prisoner of such a club. We have to get a blessing from the mother chapter in order to do that. And they were like, oh yeah, you're kind of right. Which is funny, because that's very similar to the mafia. I've done more mafia interviews and more mafia research, probably because of being Italian and being from Brooklyn. It relatively that genre came easier for me than the biker genre, right? But it's the same thing. If you have a boss you can't just kill him unless you get permission from the commission. Otherwise, you'll be dead, and that has happened in the past. So yeah, there were a couple of instances in the book where he really, was like had a brush with death, right? He didn't know what he was going to do in that circumstance, but he was sharp enough to figure it out.
Yeah, so I'll give you one quick example in that scene where he was named Slam. That fight continued, and a couple of the other pagans jumped in and started laying the boots to the guy, and Ken was afraid they were going to kill him. So
Right.
Ken's over there and he's pretending to be involved, and he's punching, he's smashing the ground, like pretending he misses with his punches, and he's punching the ground, bloodying up his fist. And then one of the dudes, a guy named Hogman, came over and was about to stomp this, like curb stomp the guy's head. And
Mhm.
Ken saw it coming and thought quick enough to move his own leg in front of the blow to protect this guy from being killed. And Ken took the force of that blow on his thigh. He thought he broke his leg. So
Right.
like it's things like that where again it's luck. Like that kick could have missed and hit the guy and killed him, but Ken was able to get his leg in front. So it's like in that moment, their training kicks in, but it's also some dumb luck.
Now let's talk about prospecting because that was really
Oh,
interesting, right? Prospecting for the pagans is in and around 6 months. Doesn't necessarily have to be 6 months, but it's usually around 6 months. But it's gruel. It's basically torture. You're basically a slave,
yeah,
not only to your own chapter that you're trying to get into, but any pagan from any chapter. So if they go to a party and there's a member and somebody he doesn't know at all, and he tells him to do something, he still has to do it,
yeah,
right? And one of the things that he needs to do is carry whatever they need. So it could be cigarettes, it could be gum, it could be parts to the bikes if something breaks down or something, and they go to him and say, "Oh, I need a pack of Marlboros or whatever, or I need this or I need that." It could be anything, and he has to make sure that he has it. And they're supposedly depending on the pagan, it's okay for them to lay hands on you if you don't have it.
right.
Like, I don't know what they refer to it as, but basically they can't slap you in the face if you don't have.
More, yeah, more than that, there's a name for check,
Yeah,
a hand check,
right.
and they all carry axe handles, so they can that's a pretty tough weapon, but they'll smash guys with axe handles. Ken saw it many times. He got beaten up with axe handles by a group of pagans. He was at a mandatory. I believe it was either in Ohio or Pennsylvania. Mandatory means every pagan has to go, and there's 1,500 pagans that just have a bacchanal for 3 nights with strippers and kegs and bands and barbecues, and they talk about club business, and the mother club has their seminars, and they have their business meetings, and they kind of set the agenda for the year for the whole club. And Ken had to go to those as a prospect, and when he's there as a prospect, as you said, every pagan there can take a piece of his ass if they want, and
Yeah.
but there are rules for that too. Like when Ken got robbed, that's the one rule: they can't rob each other, even the prospects. And
Mm.
one of these guys tried to steal Ken's gold chain, and he said no. It was actually a gold chain that his mother had given him, and he was like, "You're not getting this chain," And he ended up taking a thumping from these guys. They broke some of his ribs. They kicked the crap out of him, and some other pagans came along and saw what was going on, and they stopped it
Mhm.
because Ken, they said, "What's going on?" And Ken was like, "They tried to rob me and steal my chain," and those guys were, they got in some trouble for that. So there are some rules.